Do not let the enemy hoodwink you into thinking that all is lost, that nothing can be made of who you are in your current state right now. I was sitting here reminded of the story of Joseph in the Bible and how Joseph had a great call on his life. And because of the call on his life, he was hated by his very blood, by his brothers, his siblings, whom he was born with, grew up with. He was loved and favored by his father, but his siblings hated him. His siblings plotted to even unalive him, but they could not go through with that. So they left him in a pit. They left him. They sold their brother for money. They sold him into slavery. Can you imagine being hated that much, being disliked that much? Can you imagine what Joseph felt like, even knowing that God spoke to him, even knowing that God gave him dreams? He still had to live life the way that you and I have to live life today. But can I tell you that when we go on in the story in the book of Genesis, you can read about the life of Joseph, probably from the 30th chapter all the way to the 50th chapter, where his life ends. But when we look further on, Joseph, after being he was unjustly imprisoned, lots of things happened to Joseph before he got to the promise of what God had promised him. He ended up being able to interpret dreams in prison that people needed to be interpreted. He won Pharaoh's favor. He sold grain to his brothers. He was later reunited. So the same brothers that sold him into slavery had to cross paths with him again, that he may save their lives. He led his family through a famine. Wow, the favor of the Lord over Joseph's life. So I wanted to tell you that today, to be encouraged, that everything that has pained you, everything that has come to rob you of your joy, to make you feel worthless and unworthy, you, my dear, are worthy. God thinks you're worthy. Of course we get down. Of course things happen in life, but we are not intended to stay there. We can take examples from Joseph's life, that if God has a call and a plan and a purpose on our lives, there's nothing that any enemy can do. There's nothing that mere mortals can do to stop the plan that God has for you. So if that is you today that I am speaking to through the Holy Spirit, be encouraged today. Be encouraged to know that God has you, that God is in need of you, that God just wants you to be obedient and shut out all the noise and shut out all the naysayers who's trying to tell you what you can't do, who you can't be, that's trying to tell you that you are too far gone. No one is ever too far gone for God to do his perfect work in their lives. So today, be encouraged to know that God's grace is sufficient enough for you. That if God be for you, then who in this whole world can be against you? That we are a part of royalty. We have a daddy that looks down on us, that wants to protect us, that is protecting us, that has kept us. So we can never be too far out, too far gone. Never think that you are low enough that God can't step in and use you. God will do what he wills to do on today. Be encouraged. Be encouraged.